Okay, there we go.
Hello, am I on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Well,
my god, finally.
we're all good, we're all good. Yeah, thank you for coming on, Josie. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks. Yep, thanks for having me. Thanks for taking the time as well.
All right, so we've kind of been delayed a bit, so we can just get started right away. I guess for the folks in the call listening that maybe aren't familiar with who you are and what Milky Way is, you want to give like a brief intro?
Sure, absolutely. So hi guys, everyone. Josie here, co-founder and COO of Milky Way. So Milky Way is liquid staking, or well, we started off liquid staking for the Celestia Tia token last year. We made it launch in December, and then actually back then we got a seed round backed by Polychain and Binance Labs. And then afterwards, we kind of like took our little time to look into what we want to do next because as most of you guys probably know, there are actually a few other liquid staking providers in the Cosmos L1. And then we didn't want to be the fifth player that does exactly the same thing in the space. And so that's why we kind of did our duty in terms of, okay, what do we build next that, makes sense for all the projects out there, that it's something that, kind of solves their pain point, like we did in B1 when we solved the pain point of no other liquid staking providers can support liquid staking for TIA. And so we spoke to a lot of them and then discovered that, of course, apart from liquid staking solutions, they actually also face a huge pain point in terms of securing enough security to launch their projects, be it an L1 or other middlewares. And so that's why, and also obviously validator coordination is a pain in the ass. And that's why we're currently building a restaking platform, the first restaking platform for the modular space. So combining the liquid staking services and restaking services, we call these the modular staking portal. And obviously, since we are building so many new features, we needed to find kind of a home base for ourselves. And so we shopped around in terms of, where is the best home base, be it an L1 or somewhere else. And then we landed on the lovely Initia team. And so that's why we're currently building our rollup on top of Initia, which is called the Initia. And so we will be launching soon for the mainnet. And as you guys probably know, we launched our public testnet 2 days ago. I'm based in Asia, so that's 2 days ago. Or if you're based in stateside, that's 1 day ago. And yeah, very excited to be here and share a bit more in terms of what we're cooking up next. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I think it's really smart that you guys chose to pivot a bit from liquid staking into, what else could you do? What else could you build to provide value? I think it's really a testament to the team that y'all have building with y'all. So yeah, you touched a little bit that you were just liquid staking. I remember like the first day that y'all launched, I I had some spare Tia in my wallet that I transferred over and minted some milk Tia. But now you guys are doing modular restaking. Could you maybe explain what restaking is in like layman's terms, or terms that a degen and an ape like myself could understand?
Okay, sure. So actually, I used this example when I was in Brussels last week, and someone was like, "Can you explain restaking?" And we were at a restaurant actually, eating seafood, and so there was like, so it was like a seafood paella rice dish, and then there was like an empty mussel shell and an empty lobster shell, right? And then so my example back then was, okay, so imagine you're a platform right now, and then your platform currently have this, muscle. Imagine it's still got its meat in it and not this empty shell, of course. But it's like a nice muscle that very edible and very very decent looking. And then so some like the validators are in charge of like continuously like kind of building and like securing the muscle, right? But then if they don't have a collateral, then they don't have anything to lose, and then so they might just be like, oh, why don't I just steal the muscle and eat it then? But if they actually have a collateral where if they steal the muscle, they lose something, then they will be less incentivized to do that. And so that's where the restaking piece comes in. And so if the collateral is, say, a lobster, which is debatable whether you like lobster or mussel more, but at least it's something. And then so it's like, oh, if you steal the mussel or you do something to harm the mussel, dent the mussel, then you lose the lobster or you lose a bite of the lobster. Then there's like, some opportunity cost at stake, right? And then so that's why people are less incentivized to do so. So without restaking and people like validators are just securing something, then there's no collateral. And they will be like, oh, maybe I can steal it or harm it. But if there is restaking where there's that collateral, or for Eigenlayer's case, that's $20 billion worth of collateral, then they're less incentivized to do it because that might be 20B potentially gone, right? So, to put this into context, that example would be, for example, an Oracle provider, right? If the validators, their job is to secure the mussel, in this case would be a price feed where they need to submit, the trading platform or lending protocol or something, the price feed of like the prices. So for example, BTC would be 58K, and then ETH would be 33 now, or 3.3, sorry, not 33. 33 would be amazing,
Mhm.
but
Oh
3.3.
yeah.
3.3, like, and then so they're supposed to like, submit the actual feed, right? But if there's nothing for them to like, no collateral per se, then they might be like, oh, but this platform, like, or they can see this position, and it's like, what if I just put, BTC $1 or ETH is 33K, for example? Then like it can trigger probably some liquidation, and then they can
Mhm.
like, if they want run a liquidation bot, then they can like take a position or something like that, right? And then so that's why it's quite important to have a collateral in place where if they do that, then there's a big opportunity cost. And that's what restaking is. It's literally to have something to collateralize and secure something else.
Yeah, so like how I kind of understand it is that in the current system, validators don't have to have any collateral or like anything to put up to like incentivize them to not, I guess, be a bad actor, I guess. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
just
reputation.
right, yeah, yeah. Like it's just solely based on trust as opposed to having some financial downside, I suppose, if you um
Exactly.
mess around. Okay, I see. Cool. Um, so you touched a little bit about Eigenlayer as well. How exactly is Milky Way similar and also different to Eigenlayer?
We're similar in the sense that we provide the same like fundamental concept service. So the example that I gave just now in terms of what restaking actually does, so that is fundamentally the service that we provide to all of the various middlewares, right? In terms of, but obviously there are still a lot of differences. So the first difference would be they mainly predominantly service the Ethereum ecosystem, and not predominantly, they only service the Ethereum ecosystem. And for us, we service the modular ecosystem for the beginning. But as we all know, modular is quite fluid. So what we're building is also very flexible. It's highly
Hmm.
programmable to be used across the various ecosystems as well. And in terms of how we approach it, so for the beginning, we're like, okay, we need to kind of solve this pain point and build a restaking platform. And that's why when we decided to do it, we did this kind of not second round, but then we did the kind of architecture uh, R&D phase. And so that's when we spoke with a lot of the existing projects out there. They are working with various restaking platforms as well, and also the user sides. So when I say project, that's in both the validator or the operator side, and also the projects that are seeking security, right? In terms of kind of the pain points. So a few approach that we did it in terms of the architecture difference is we take what we call a multi-asset approach. So for example, Eigenlayer, they only have ERC20 deposits enabled. Well, they only had ETH and liquid state in the beginning, but they're probably going to not migrate, branch out to include other ERC20 tokens, like
Hmm.
Symbiotic does. But that's kind of their V1 or V2 per se. They don't really have plans to do kind of a multi-asset approach. But then for us, since it's highly programmable, we don't think we should kind of dictate the terms for the users in terms of how, or not users, the projects in terms of what tokens they should use to be secured, right? And that's why we have this multi-asset approach where they can not only choose to be secured partially by their own token, which a lot of them want to do so, but they just can't, get the enough FDV for their own token, which is why they need to rent this security because if
Mhm.
they can produce, hundreds of millions, or in my previous case, a lobster by themselves, then they don't need to rent a lobster. And so, which is why they do this rent of security, but they still want to use their own token. And so we have this multi-asset approach where they can choose to be collateralized by, maybe 90% of some blue chip assets, for example, TIA and Init, and then 10% of their own token when their token is still relatively small. And then once it grows bigger, then they can choose to, gradually be secured about more and more of their token until it's 100% and they kick out every second provider. And obviously, for if they choose to be secured by ETH and BTC, we are actually actively not speaking, collaborating with the other teams to do integration with them on that front.
Interesting. Yeah. So, like, whenever you were first explaining it, you said multi-asset. I thought it was like, because like for Eigenlayer, it's Ethereum, right? And I was thinking for you guys, it would be, I guess like any selection of assets. It could be Tia or Init or Milk, but I think it's really interesting that you can do like a pair. You can do, like you said, like 90% and Init, 10% Tia or something like that. I think it's
Yeah, it's a more
yeah.
gradual shift. Yeah, that's what the project's really like. Because they were really scared in terms of doing like a hard shift from say ETH to their own asset, because
Mhm.
whatever their own asset is going to be very hard to flip ETH, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're like, oh, when we do that, like, will there be, like really weird tokenomics happening? And then so they really like this gradual approach because they can only always change a parameter back, right? If they see anything wonky going on.
So is it, yeah, so like it'll be gradual in that, so maybe like at the start like 95% would be ETH or BTC or something like that, and like 5% would be their native token per se. And is it a case where like as their market cap or FDV increases, the pair would kind of gradually even out? Is that kind of how you see it happening?
That's what a lot of them are saying they'll do, but it's completely up to them in terms of how they set it.
Okay.
So they can just like set it in one go and manually change it, or they can do different params as well, where they factor in the price fluctuations. So, for example, if I like yeah, your example would be BTC ETH 9% and then 10% their own token, right? But they can be like if ETH, like for example, within the 90%, it's like half, right? 45% ETH, 45% BTC. But then they can do if ETH, suddenly drops 30% in a day,
Hmm.
then everything switched to BTC. So they can
Okay,
set
okay.
these sort of like rules themselves as well.
Is there only a maximum of 2 tokens that you can use? Like in
No,
one
it's up
pair,
to
if that makes
them.
sense? Okay, okay, cool. Very cool, very cool. Um, so talking a little bit about y'all's testnet now, are there any, cool, like, stats or, number of users or anything like that that you could share that have, you know, like, minted their milk in it or interacted with y'all's testnet at all?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just pull that up. Um, 1 second. Well, need to factor in that we were live for 30 days and then, sorry, 30 days, 30 hours approximately. And in which the first few hours, I think, the bridge was down. Because thank you for all the support. Yeah, completely
Bullish.
wrecked our, yeah, I know, completely wrecked our relayer, but I guess that's what, testnet is for. And then so that theoretically shouldn't happen on mainnet. But okay, yes, I have it right now. So in terms of users who have minted milk in it, that's 120K users right now
Whoa.
within the past, yes, 30 hours.
30 hours, 120K. That's
Yeah,
pretty insane. How,
and in
no,
which 10
sorry, go.
hours were down.
Yeah, okay, so, like, yeah, so, like, 20 hours, basically, not even 24 hours, 120K.
More or less, yes.
That's insane. That's freaking insane. How 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 long will y'all's testnet be live or ongoing?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay, cool.
Well,
Um,
that's the initial plan, yes.
right. Okay. So right around the time y'all's testnet
13th,
ends,
16th of August, yeah.
16th of August, nice. Yeah, so around the time y'all's testnet ends, and uh, our testnet will actually end as well, and then shortly after mainnet for the both of us. It sounds like
Yes, indeed.
that's a nice it's a nice thing it lined up like that for sure. Okay, cool. There is one question from the audience, and it is, will it be possible to tie in the testnet users on Milky Way with previous like users that minted Milk Tia and have endpoints already? Because how I understand it is that sorry, users are getting endpoints for using Initia's testnet as well,
Correct.
and getting it for having Milk Tia as well. So it will will it be possible for them to like join the two together or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is joined actually, because in order to participate, you need a minimum of 500 endpoints. So you previously get endpoints by participating in using our liquid staking solutions, where if you hold your Miltia, then you get 1 point endpoint per Miltia per day. If you do it across DeFi, then it's like 1.2 endpoints per Miltia per day. Yeah, so currently you need 500 minimum endpoints in order to use our testnet. And then once you do it, and then there is actually a button there, or you can just navigate back to your leaderboard, and then it should be reflected in the same leaderboard position.
Okay, awesome. Got it. That makes sense. Okay, I see a question right here. Are there risk management provided inside the protocol, and what will Milky Way do to make the risk minimal for users?
I guess this is regarding the testnet and hence liquid staking part. So in terms of risk management, yes, so all the contracts that we use are fully audited and open source, so feel free to go on. And yeah, so this is very battle tested. We're using ICA method for liquid staking for the init part, slightly different to the architecture of how we did Milk Tia. For those interested, we have technical documentations for both in terms of how we structured it. But for liquid staking in it in particular, using the ICA, it's very battle tested Cosmos FTK module. So we're not exactly reinventing the wheel here. So don't worry in terms of the risks for that part. But yes, so the risk and obviously the job of us as a liquid staking provider is to make sure that the peg is good and it doesn't depeg. So there are different vault strategies provider companies out there that we have been actively working on for this front since we launched Miltia. And so this is why the Miltia and Tia peg has always been, I won't say 100%, but has always kept its uptime.
Yeah, Milk Tea has been live for several months now, right?
Yes, since last December.
Oh wow! I did not know it was all the way back to 2023. Okay, shit.
Yep,
Very
it's
good.
December
Very cool.
18th.
Oh, so like literally, what, 7 months now? Is right? To the day?
Yep, yep,
Like
yep,
for me at least in the States. Okay,
yep,
cool.
yep.
Um, okay, awesome. Thank you for that answer. Whoever asked that, thank you for the question. Another question I have up here is, who is the target market for liquid restaking tokens, and what use cases will come out of Milky Way's restaking hub?
Ooh. Well, for the liquid restaking token, that's more a question for the Inertia team, but then I'll try my best to answer on their behalf without putting words in their mouth. Um, Sorry, can you repeat? Is it use case for liquid restaking token
Oh,
or? That's a separate one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like the question exactly is, what is or who is the market target for liquid
Oh,
restaking tokens, and then what use cases will come out of Milky Way's restaking hub? So kind of two questions really.
okay, gotcha. For the liquid restaking token, yeah, that's a company called Inertia doing it. And then for the beginning, using TIA, there will be deposit for TIA and other forms of liquid staking tokens. So yeah, there will actually be a lot of like fun stuff going on because also don't want to announce on other companies' behalf, but there is another company upcoming in the Cosmos ecosystem. I think they announced their existence already, but I'll let them do the real announcement. But yeah, so there will be a new liquid staking provider that will also be doing, some tokens that we work on potentially. And that will be a great collaboration because for the liquid restaking token, it will enable deposits for native and also liquid staking. So there can be a lot of fun stuff that can be done afterwards, and it will be listed across the Minitias, of course, and also the other Cosmos DeFi applications. And that will be like kind of V1, but since it's a liquid restaking token that kind of represents both the native and also the LSTs underneath, in the future there can be a lot of fun yield opportunities that comes out of it. It can be seen as like the ultimate TIA yield bearing token as well, where apart from the liquid staking APR, it also taps into the restaking APR, and it can be used for lending, perp trading, etc. So yeah, quite a lot of different markets to address. So it really depends on whether you're here to support the chain security of Celestia, or to support the restaking projects, or to get the best yield out of the TIA token. So quite a few markets that we can potentially address, or that we are addressing. And in terms of the second part of your question, for restaking the projects that we're working with, so it's actually a lot of various projects. So it's a combination of rollups, since it's traditionally for rollups. It's using a centralized sequencer, which is okay if it's a rollup that doesn't really secure much, like it doesn't really have a lot of TVL on their chain, or it's not a chain that aims to accrue TVL, then that's fine. But then for those that are more on the DeFi side of things, where they are looking to build up a TVL on their rollup, then having a centralized sequencer is potentially a problem for a lot of users. They might find it hard to stomach that. So we help them decentralize their sequencer set. So that's definitely one huge use case, especially within the Initia ecosystem for the other Minitias.
No.
And then we're actually working with Oracle providers for the example there, in terms of securing the price feed. That's also very important. And actually DA provider as well, because in order to scale and have as many light nodes as possible, you also need to have a rewards distribution and kind of punishment in place. And actually, that made me realize that previously the example I gave, I only talked about the punishment and not the reward distribution, but that is also very important as well, for the rewards distribution. So we are actually working with another DA provider on it. And then also the bridging, because bridging uptime is also very important. And also various LLMs, since that's also actively submitting a lot of data feeds as well. And also for the intended solver side, since solvers need to run infrastructure too. Yeah, and the list goes on basically. But these are
Wow.
the ones that we're working with, that I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's crazy already, the vast number of like different projects that y'all are working with, and it seems like it's only gonna get more vast in terms of the different use cases that um
Yeah,
come out
a
of.
lot of 100%. Yeah.
Were you gonna say something else?
Oh yeah, sorry. I think there was a lag, and I was like, "Oh shit, I talked over you."
No,
Sorry,
no,
I did
you're
not
good.
mean to do that.
Don't
But yeah,
worry.
a lot of projects are building using Cosmos Tech Stack. They just don't, brand themselves as Cosmos
Hmm.
projects.
Yep.
Since yeah, as we all know, that's not the best branding.
Hmm.
But yeah, exactly like Virgin Monad, right? They're all building using Cosmos. And then the projects building on top of them, a lot of them would be in the space as well.
Alrighty. Okay. We've gone over the security. Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting question for you. In your heart, is there a song that comes to mind whenever you think of Milky Way and what you guys have built thus far?
Song.
A song, yes.
Okay, I no. The answer would have been no because I've never associated us with a song. But I was like, okay, first song to the top of my head when you ask this question
Hmm.
is I have no idea why. I'm just gonna say it and then I'll try to analyze it. It's Armin's On and On.
Armin's, what is it?
On and On. That's a song name, right?
On and on. Okay. There you go. Mr. Zalen. You're
But yeah, I have no idea why that was the first thing that came to my mind.
okay. Now we
I
know.
personally love. I mean, I personally love Armin. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's got nothing to do with Milky Way. Just like first song that you would like listen to right now.
Okay, Zalen, you have your answer, good sir. Alrighty. Before we wrap this up, does anyone else have any questions for Josie from Milky Way? Any last comments, questions, concerns? Oh wait, let's see. Um, yeah, one of the questions was how does Milky Way implement security? Josie went over that. What is the main reason Milky Way is now part of Initia? I guess like the question is, why did you guys choose to maybe build your own roll up, and why specifically did you choose Initia?
Great question. So we definitely want because previously we deployed Milk Tia with using Cosmosm contracts on the Osmosis chain. We can definitely keep on doing that. But since what we're building right now, the restaking part, we actually use Cosmos SDK modules instead of Cosmosm. That's more tech decision that the tech guys can answer better. But then so we were like, okay, we need to seek a place or where we can build modules, and that's not continuously deploying contracts on Osmosis, right? And so the options we had were basically Cosmos L1 or a rollup. And then so for Cosmos L1, then obviously there is a perk of we being able to fully customize everything, but there is actually a huge pain point in the sense that we need to handle the validator coordination. And we need to pay the validator since, as the Cosmos Olens, generally the inflation rate is quite high, meaning the staking APR is quite high, and you need to pay a significant portion of your token supply if it's worth anything to the validators. If it's not worth anything, then like basically the validators will just kind of ignore you and you have no rent to run your L1s. So we actually know a lot of projects that got their Cosmos L1 on testnet, but they never made that launch it because they couldn't secure or get enough security. That actually isn't a problem for us, luckily. But then we were like, why do we need to kind of waste this human effort to do this validator coordination for an L1 where we don't actually need one, right? And then so we spoke with Zon a lot and San, of course, and then so we decided to build it on Nisha because it has all of the kind of stuff that we want, as in we want to build with SDK modules, but then we don't want to worry about all the other pain points of doing the L1, which is the validator piece.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of why we chose it. The very main reason, and obviously all the other side benefits of being part of a great ecosystem, and think we're all aligning on the launch time together. so all of our tokens can be interwoven and used across
Yes.
multiple platforms. That's also a great perk, of course, and then also the other features that I feel like are less spoken about. For example, just the bridging, right? When Initia first launched, it took us some time to get on Axelar actually, even though we're not a new chain. The token is
Hmm.
minted on Osmosis, so they
Right.
had Osmosis chain integrated from, well, I don't know when, like super early on. Actually, I do know when. They did Osmosis did like this proposal thing back then, debating across a few bridges. I think it was 2 years ago, and then the community chose Axler then, and that's when they integrated Axler. Yes. Um, and so yeah, so they didn't actually Axler didn't need to integrate Osmosis chain. They only need to add a token. It still took like the whole process like 3 months. To do it. So it's like, oh shit, every time we like have a new token support or something, then it's going to take a long time to get on, right? And so like you guys having layer zero out of the bridge, out of the box, or out of the box solution, I think that's actually very useful as well. And also on the Oracle side of things, getting an Oracle provider to work across ecosystem, that's actually quite hard as well,
Mhm.
because it's kind of a chicken and egg problem for the Oracle providers and like EVM or the other spaces. They will look into a lot of different factors, and then so to get listed on them when you're a so-called foreign asset from a different ecosystem, it can be quite a high barrier. So having the skip Oracle, what did they call themselves now? Skip Go, Skip Connects.
Uh,
Yeah. So
Slinky.
yes, Slinky. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh yeah, Go and Connects are the retail products. Yes. So yeah, having Slinky, that's very good as well, for for all the upcoming and new assets. So yeah, that's kind of like these kind of sort of all of these combined reasons are why we chose Initia.
Yeah, one thing whenever like whenever I first joined Initia, I was not super familiar with the Cosmos eco. I came from Solana and the EVM land. So one thing I learned as I joined and as I started researching Cosmos is like how hard it is to actually deploy your own L2, whether it's on like the OP stack or whether it's using Cosmos. Getting things like Oracle access, like native USDC. All these things are extremely hard to get unless you are very connected and have a lot of money to throw around and things like that. So I think one thing that's cool about Initia is that you kind of get a lot of infrastructure that's already built and all like ready to go, like right out of the box, as you said. So yeah,
Yep,
super neat.
100%.
Um,
Thanks, guys, for doing all that.
yeah, shout out to the devs for sure. Um, okay, let's see. Any last questions about Milky Way? I think that's it, Josie. Um, there's a few questions that I'll answer on the Initia side, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So you're more than free to stick around, or you can drop if you'd like. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you answering all of our questions, and it's a pleasure talking with you as always.
Yep, thank you. No, thanks for having us. And yeah, stay tuned, I guess, to our Twitter, or feel free to drop us a message. We're always around. So, yep. Thanks for having us, and thanks for dialing in, guys.
See you, Josie. Take
See
care.
ya. Bye bye.
All right, guys. Now you just have me. There were a few questions that you guys asked on the Initia side. I'll quickly go over those, and then we can wrap this up. I'm gonna drink some water real quick. Um, Alrighty. So yeah, someone asked about what VIP is. Um, so if you read our blog post that we released last week where we talked about how part 2 of the testnet will strictly consist of testing minute swap and VIP. Um, we'll be releasing more like detailed information as to what minute swap is um, in the next coming weeks. But you, if you've used the testnet for part two, you can kind of get an idea of what it is. But the question is specifically about VIP. And I'll try to give some information that I don't want to leak too much to get me in trouble, but I guess what I can say is that so VIP stands for Vested Interest Program, and it's basically a way to incentivize usage of the minitias. So incentivizing usage of like Milky Way, Blackwing, Savisha, Contro, Czar, all of these interwoven rollups that will be deployed on Initia. It's sorry about that. Um, it's an economic framework that aligns the users and the developers of these applications through are to stick around on Initia, essentially. Yeah, exactly, Sukma. That's what it is. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about VIP. Um, yeah, so one of the other questions about security was asked for Milky Way, but it was also thrown to Anish's way as well. And so we've done a lot of audits into our code. Um, the Initia developers and engineers have been building this thing for over 2 years, and we've done a lot of extensive audits throughout this process. We'll release more information soon as to the full extent of the audits and things like that. But our code's gone through a very rigorous process for over the past 2 years. So yeah, but we'll release more proper information soon to get you guys plugged in on that side of things. Um, let's see. While testing, assets sometimes get locked when moving to another chain via IBC or the OP bridge. Could you explain how assets are recovered on the mainnet and why they get locked? Yeah, so this is actually a testnet specific issue. Usually when this happens, the transfer will go through. Like the assets are deducted from the origination chain, and then refunded shortly after. Basically, why this happens is because there's many people trying to swap at the same time, which causes some fluctuations in the pool ratio. For example, like init USDC. So yeah, it's specific to testnet because on mainnet swaps don't occur this like quickly, this rapidly, all at the same time. Um, so yeah, basically there's just a shit ton of people using our testnet, and that's why sometimes swapping and bridging don't work. This won't be a problem on mainnet. Good team and nice project. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Okay. Any last questions before I wrap this up? Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. Really sorry for the cough. Seems like everything is good. All right, guys and gals. Thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate it. We've got 3 more weeks of testnet, and then we've got a huge mainnet launch. So make sure to stick around. Follow Initia on Twitter. Follow Milky Way on Twitter. Make sure you're reading all the announcements, and we will be doing more of these soon. All right, take care, guys. See ya. Thank you for coming out. Bye bye.